My 15 favorite things of 2010, and I got this idea from one of my favorite YouTubers, which is MSSOFTBRN. So the first thing I'm going to say is textured cardstock, and I'm sure this doesn't really show up in the video well, but Stampin' Up's textured cardstock, I love it. The only thing I don't like is that the only way to buy it is to buy it mixed with smooth cardstock. I really beg Stampin' Up to move to a model where you can buy a whole pack of textured cardstock. I love it. I actually am one of those people who loves luxurious cards, and so the texture just adds that little element of luxury for me. And to give you an example of something I've made, this particular card, which is actually made with a Twinchi, several inks, and embossing, is layered onto some textured cardstock, which is 3x6. But it's the perfect background. You know, it just adds a little bit of extra frame to your focal point. So I love it. The next thing I want to talk about is VersaFine. VersaFine is an ink that I kind of fell on to by accident, but it is perfect for detail. So any stamps, like I have this huge Tattered Angels butterfly stamp that basically is pre-mounted for you by Tattered Angels. But this has so much detail. This is it. Look at that detail. So there's not a lot of ink that you won't have to like ink, push really hard CPR method to get that detail. But with this ink, you put it on once, you press normal, and you will get all your detail. So I really love VersaFine. I love it in the colors Vintage Sepia and the really dark black. The next thing that I love, which would be number 13, is Stazon All-Purpose Cleaner. So yes, I love the ink too, but what I love about this cleaner is I tend to be kind of fanatical about neatness and cleanliness. So I like to clean my stamps. So here's a stamp. This is a Stampin' Up stamp that I use all the time. It's one of my favorites. It's on dishes, like ceramic, on glass, on acetate, because it adds a beautiful element to those non-porous surfaces. It gets really dirty with Stazon ink. So this cleans it right up, and this is a very old stamp. I don't know, maybe it's 2 years old, and it should be black. That's how often I use it, but it's beautiful because of this all-purpose cleaner. I love it. It cleans off your desk too. If you get any ink on your desk of any kind, it'll clean it off. So I really love Stazon all-purpose cleaner. This is Glossy Accents, and this is a Ranger product that I also adore. I actually use this quite a bit with my Scrabble tiles. So I have done crafting classes teaching how to decorate Scrabble tiles for jewelry. And I'll try to put a few pictures of the Scrabble tiles at the end of this video so you can kind of see it, because I didn't have any in my room because they've all been given away. But this acts as a beautiful element to add gloss, kind of like what you use crystal effects for, but also it's a very strong and very rapid glue. So I've used it to make magnets, as well as the Scrabble tiles, as well as like scissor charms. I don't know if I have any handy to show you. So this is a scissor charm, and it's just like a plastic fabric, a fragment, a little tiny bit of this Glossy Effects glue, which leaves no residue, and you kind of rub it in for 1 second, and it dries before you can even get it positioned. So it's really fast when you use just a little. And then I just cut around the edges, and I've got this scissor charm, which is really great for making sure people don't take home my scissors, because these are standard Stampin' Up scissors, and so somebody will take it home by accident. So that's Glossy Accents. SoftBRN mentioned markers, and I want to say that I use both the Stampin' Up markers and the Copic markers, which I love very much, both. And so I'm not going to actually pick a favorite, but I'm going to say that in order to get the best out of my Stampin' Up markers, I need the blender pen. So I would say that I would have to combine the blender pen with the markers to get the perfect marker from Stampin' Up. And then the more expensive markers by Copic, I love them. So just to look at some things I've done with that, this one is a thank you card. Now what's special about the markers that I love is that you can color your stamp and then stamp. So these trees have multiple markers that are being used to color them, so you get this multiple color effect, which I wouldn't want to do with an ink pad because I could contaminate the inks. And then again, I'll put some examples of the Copic marker projects I've done at the end of the video because I've given them all away, but really great detail, wonderful for getting shadows into your images. They are stellar for really fine detail and beautiful shadows and 3D effects. Okay, so I'm up to number 10 is the Fabriano Italian paper. Now, here's 3 cards that I did with this paper. You can get this in a multitude of sizes. I think I have it in several sizes in my craft room. You can't see the detail on this one here, which is basically an embossed butterfly. But this paper, I don't have to do much to it. There's an embossed butterfly and the paper is just gorgeous. It's a very high quality Italian paper. I tell you, the Italians, they got paper making down. They are the best for all kinds of writing, watercolor, and etc. kinds of papers. And so these are pre-cut, pre-folded, and I just fold them in half, and I can put together a card basically in seconds that looks quite rich. So I love Fabriano Italian paper. Next, right here, this is number 9. This is the Stampin' Up cutting mat. So my camera is mounted on my desk, but the cutting mat has measurements on the sides. It has on all 4 sides, and it's self-healing. So when I use my X-Acto knife and cut on it, it heals itself and it stays really nice. I love my stamping mat, and it's large enough to like even cut. I've even cut cloth on it, like like I've been cutting material, because it goes up to, I think it's 17 inches one way, and I forgot what it is on the other, so something like 12. So it's really pretty big. After that is number 8, which is the grid paper. Great for testing stamping. So you might notice on the bottom of this one, I was doing a journal, and before I stamp, I like to test to see how the ink took on the stamp, so I know how much pressure to apply. So I'll test on my grid paper. The grid paper, like the mat board, does have measurements, so I can measure vertical and horizontal center points. I can take notes on it. Over on the right of the grid paper is my little list of materials that I can jot down as I'm making something. Sometime in your creative process, you don't want to forget what your measurements were. You can jot those down right there. It also gives you like some default measurements for standard cards. I just love the grid paper, and of course it is stellar at workshops so that people can jot down what items they want to order. Number 7 is the Tattered Angels Mat. This is a misting mat by Tattered Angels, and I used to use Tim Holtz mat. And let me tell you, I'm not saying that I don't like Tim Holtz mat anymore. I do. But this guy it takes up my whole, almost my whole desk. So there's about 4 inches around of my desk left. So that's how big this thing is. And what I love about that is I can totally play with my mist and spray, and I don't have to worry about that mist or the little dots when I'm doing the Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist getting on my desk and ruining the surface of my desk or my project. And it's also great for when I'm using my distressed inks. I'm just going to put these back because they're kind of heavy. And my alcohol inks. I just have so much fun with my Tattered Angels Misting Mat, which is a pretty pink even though it doesn't match my room at all.